Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen today, where we're gonna do a little bit of baking. So a friend and I do a dinner at our church every Wednesday night for about 70 people, give or take. And dessert is one thing that we want to kind of whip up. So what I'm making this week is something that I've done in the past, and it's really easy and they're delightful. So the name of this is Can't Leave It Alone bars. And I will let you be the judge of that if you're gonna try these at home, because they are really that good where you just can't leave them alone. And they're super simple to make. So I thought you might be interested in this. So let's do a little baking today. All right, so this starts with a basic cake mix. Now I'm doubling my recipe because again, I'm making a sheet pan size, but a 9 by 13 pan is what you would normally make these in. It would be one cake mix, one white cake mix. So I've got 2 here ready to go. And then we are just gonna add a couple other things to this cake mix to make it a nice crust. Okay, so we're gonna open up 2 cake mix. I don't think it matters what kind you have. I'm not really super picky on cake mix because it's not really something that I use on a regular basis at all. Now we're gonna add some eggs because of course we want this to stick together, right? So we're gonna crack 1 egg at a time into this. Okay, let's add a little bit of oil. We're gonna add, for me, 2/3 cup of oil. Now the recipe actually says canola oil. I don't think it would matter. I think you could use any vegetable oil that you wanted. So if you're making a single recipe, 1/3 cup of oil. I am starting by just incorporating the liquid into my dry because I don't want to be covered in a powder of white cake mix, and that is a real thing that could really happen if you're not careful. So that is what I'm doing right there. All right, so it's incorporating really nice here. We're just gonna get it all blended. We don't have to go crazy with this. That's it. Look at that. Okay, so there is our crust. So we're gonna get this off of our paddle, and then we're just gonna press it into our pan. Now the thing of this is, it's kind of a layered type bar effect. So we're gonna lay down about 2/3 of this dough into our pan and press it in. But then we're gonna reserve back the rest of the dough, so about 1/3, we're gonna keep behind because we're gonna make a chocolate, gooey chocolate. It's all about the adjectives, right? Chewy, gooey chocolate mixture to put in between our layers. So I don't know if you ever remember fudge jumbles. They were a really big thing when I was a kid, and you always reserved back some of that dough too to put on top of your fudge layer, so it gave them this kind of neat appearance and everything when they baked. This is the same concept when we're talking about that. So we have got a pan ready to go here. Now, like again, I'm using a sheet pan because I'm basically doubling my batch. So I have got it all prepped. So I spray it down with non-stick cooking spray, Pam, whatever you want to do. So again, we're going to get about 2/3 of our dough into our pan, and then we're just going to press it out. There we go. Okay, so that's about 2/3. I want plenty on top. All right, so it just presses out easily. If you have any problems with this sticking to your fingers, sometimes if you just dip your fingers in some cold water and work with the dough, that will help too, because of course the more you work with it, even the warmth from your fingers, even though you don't think of that being a big thing, it does start to soften that dough up because you're putting heat on it. And we're almost there. I just need to move a little bit out of the middle into the end here where it's a little thicker, because we do want this to bake evenly on the bottom crust here. You don't want an uneven layer. You want it to be as uniform as possible. Ta-da, there's our layer. All right, now I'm just gonna rinse my fingers quick, and then we're gonna get back to make our ooey gooey chocolatey filling. All right, we're ready to go with our filling. Now this is super easy as well. So you wanna get yourself a microwave safe bowl. I've got one right here. Now sweetened condensed milk is not evaporated milk. Sweetened condensed milk is the thick, gooey stuff. Really, this is milk syrup is what we're talking about here, and I'm not kidding you. So it's very thick, it's very sweet, but it gets everything sticky enough to stick together. All right. There is our sweetened condensed milk. Then we are gonna add some chocolate chips. So this is where we get our chocolatey goodness. So a couple cups of chocolate chip. We'll get these out. And then the last thing is butter. So for my purposes, I'm using 2 times the amount. Quarter cup, for me it's gonna be a half cup. Now I'm just gonna cube this up a little bit so it melts easier. So I'm just gonna cut this into smaller pieces and it's gonna melt in there really nice and really fast. And we've just got some larger cubes there. Does that make sense? There's our mixture. So we're gonna stick all this in the microwave and just put it on a melt function if you have, or if you don't have a melt function, if you have like a percentage of heat to use, you can use that. And we're gonna just melt this up and keep stirring it until it gets all smooth and melted. All right, so I'm taking this out for the first time. I used 50% power on mine, and this was about 3 minutes, okay? So what's kind of crazy is the butter is the only thing that's really sitting there not incorporated. The rest looks to have melted really well. So we're just gonna mix that in, and I have a feeling it's all gonna come to liquid. You add that butter in there. Yeah, it just gets beautiful. I'm gonna give it one more little shot just at 50% again to melt that in and just give it a little more heat to finish that off, okay? Okay, we are done. Yep, that was just enough. So I didn't even go a full minute, again on 50%, because we want melt. I don't have a melt function on this microwave. That is one thing I do miss. Okay, so let's just pour all of this over. Look at how beautiful that is. It's like a glaze. You could, yeah, I just think of this as being almost like a fondue situation here. And when this bakes, it gets, I don't even know how to, it stays soft and almost chewy consistency. Do you know what I'm saying? And it is so good. And I don't know who came up with the title to this recipe, but it is so, it is so fitting. So if this is something that you'd be into, you're gonna love these, and you're welcome. You're welcome right now. All right, let's get that in there. Every drop matters, you guys. All right, I guess I didn't need to be so particular about cleaning off that spatula. I still need to spread it just a little bit. No gaps. Okay, and this does actually spread really nice because it's still all melty. All right, there we go. So we're all the way out to the edges. Okay, now we've got the rest of this dough to deal with, right? So we have about 1/3 of what we made left in here. So I just grabbed a spoon, and again, if you remember the fudge jumble business, it's so similar to that. So I'm gonna take little blops of this, okay, that's a word, I guess. Now, because this chocolate is so loosey-goosey, it's gonna be hard to spread this dough once you lay it down on that pan. So this is kind of what I do. I take and I just flatten out as much as I can. And again, this dough is nice and oily. So it doesn't really stick in your hands. You have time to work with this. So flatten this out, and then we're just gonna put blobs of this over the top, okay? So we're gonna continue to do this till all our dough is gone. Ta-da, ta-da, we are done. Do you see what I'm saying? I can't leave it tippy uppy like that too long or I'm gonna have a puddle. So we have got it arranged here how I wanted it over the top. And now it's time to bake this off. So 350 degrees, 20 to 25 minutes. Now this may take a little bit longer for this size pan, so just keep that in mind. Keep an eye on it. You don't want it to burn. We want it to be firm though, so we'll stick a toothpick in this when we think it's ready to check and be sure that at least that crust is done, okay? So let's get this in the oven. All right, you guys, we are done. Aren't they pretty? They're so pretty and they smell amazing. Okay, so I ended up baking them about 29 to 30-ish minutes. You can tell when they're set up, okay? I did take a toothpick or a skewer, I guess is what I use. And just be sure, I mean, to get some fudginess out of it is fine because that stuff sets up, okay? But we wanna be sure that crust is done. And you can even tell by the color, and it starts to just come away from the sides of the pan just slightly. So this is our finished product, ready to cut into squares when they're cool. I know they're a big hit, which is why they call them I can't leave them alone bars. But again, you can be the judge on that. Thanks again for joining me in my kitchen. Hope you have a great rest of your day.